we're just going to jump straight into the next part of the Easter story that happened many, many years ago. And today is a very important day because today was the day that Jesus died for us. And it was such an incredible thing that he did for us. So we're just going to jump straight into the story. And the first part is when Peter, one of Jesus' disciples, denies him, even after he said that he wouldn't, as you would remember from the previous video.
Okay, it's called I Do Not Know Him. The guards took Jesus to the high priest's house. Peter followed and slipped into the courtyard. He joined a group of people around the fire. Suddenly, a servant girl noticed him and began to stare. "Weren't you with Jesus?" she asked. "No, I don't even know him," replied Peter. Then a short time after, another person asked him, "Weren't you a follower of Jesus?" Peter denied it. An hour later, a third person said, "You come from Galilee. You must know Jesus." "No, I do not know him," cried Peter. At that very moment, the cock crowed, and Peter remembered what Jesus had said. He left the courtyard, broke down, and wept. Meanwhile, the Jewish council was trying to find evidence to convict Jesus and put him to death. Many false witnesses came forward and told lies, but this was not enough. Finally, the high priest questioned Jesus himself. "Are you going to answer these charges?" he demanded. Jesus did not reply. "I am putting you under oath," said the high priest. "Are you the Son of God?" "You say that I am," said Jesus. "From now on you will see the Son of Man sitting on God's side." Furious, the high priest spoke to the council. "The prisoner claims to be equal with God," he said. "We do not need any more witnesses after this outburst. What do you think?" "Guilty," said the council, all shouted. "He must die." As soon as Judas heard that Jesus had been sentenced to death, he was overcome with guilt and grief. He went to the priest and threw the 30 pieces of silver onto the floor. "I have sinned," he cried. "I've betrayed an innocent man." The priest laughed at him. Then Judas went away and hanged himself. Meanwhile, Jesus was taken before the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate. The Jews could not execute Jesus without the governor's agreement. "He claims to be king," they told Pilate. "Are you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. "That's what you say," replied Jesus, and then he kept silent. He refused to answer any more of Pilate's questions. Pilate could find nothing that Jesus had done wrong and wanted to set him free. Okay, so that is how Jesus was sentenced to death, and this is the next part of the story.
Okay, it's called Father, Forgive Them. And it can be found in Matthew 27, Mark 15, Luke 23, or John 18. It was a Jewish custom to pardon and set free a prisoner at the time of the Passover. Pilate wanted to free Jesus, but the Jewish leaders were determined to get their way. "Jesus must die," they said. "He claims to be the Son of God, which is against our law." When he heard this, Pilate was afraid. He ordered that Jesus be whipped. The soldiers made a crown of thorns for his head and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Then Pilate presented him to the crowd. "Do you want me to kill your king?" he asked. "Crucify him," came the reply. "Crucify him and free Barabbas instead." Barabbas was a horrible prisoner. Then crying, "Jesus' death is on your hands," Pilate freed the murderer, Barabbas, and the soldiers led Jesus away. Jesus was forced to carry a huge wooden cross through the streets of to Golgotha, the place of his execution. As he passed, people mocked him and spat at him. He stumbled and fell, and the soldiers ordered one of the crowd, a man called Simon of Cyrene, to carry the cross for him. A group of weeping women followed Jesus. He turned to them, saying, "Do not weep for me, rather weep for yourselves and your children." At last they came to Golgotha. There guards nailed Jesus' hands and feet to the cross. They nailed a notice above his head which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Jesus was in great pain. He went through all this pain just for us. The guard offered drugged wine, but he refused. Then the guard set up the cross with a thief on either side of him. "Father, forgive them," he prayed. "They know not what they are doing." And here's the picture of Jesus with the thieves on either side of him at Golgotha.
Okay, the Son of God. People jeered at Jesus, calling out, "If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross, and we will believe in you." One of the thieves joined in with the jeers as well, but the other thieves said, "We deserve our punishment. This man has done nothing wrong. Remember me, Jesus, when you come again as king." "I give you my promise," replied Jesus. "Today you will be with me in paradise." Jesus looked down at Mary, his mother, who was leaning on John's arm, and said, "Mother, here is your son." Jesus looked at John and said, "Here is your mother." Then John took Mary away to live in his home. Beneath the cross, the soldiers were throwing dice to win Jesus' seamless robe. Suddenly, at 12 o'clock, the sky went dark, and a great shadow blotted out the sun. For 3 hours there was scarcely any light. Jesus cried aloud, my God, why have you left me?" A little later he called out, "I thirst." And a soldier soaked a sponge in wine, stuck it on a stick, and held it to his lips. At 3 o'clock Jesus gave a terrible cry and said, "It is finished. Father, into your hands I place my spirit." Then he died.
And then, behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom, and the earth quaked, and the rocks were split, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the graves after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. So when the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and the things that had happened, they feared greatly, saying, "Truly, this was the Son of God."
A Roman soldier who was standing nearby heard Jesus and said, "This man was truly the Son of God." Another soldier pierced Jesus' side with a spear to make sure that he was dead. Finally, they gently lowered his body down from the cross.
Okay, thank you. Later that day, Joseph from Arimathea arrived. He was a follower of Jesus and had permission from Pilate to take Jesus' body away for burial. Joseph and Nicodemus prepared Jesus' body according to Jewish custom. They wrapped it in fine linen and special spices and took it to a tomb that had just been dug out of the rock. Mary Magdalene and some other women watched as a large stone was rolled across the entrance and the tomb was sealed. Okay, so that's the story of how Jesus died for us, and it's so amazing how he went through all that pain and suffering just so that we could be washed clean from all our sin, so that one day when we die, we can go and live with him for eternity in heaven.